Rain hammered the windshield as Jamal Carter eased his Tesla to a stop outside his firm's downtown office. A black man in a tailored gray suit, case files in the passenger seat, and exhaustion in his eyes. He had just won a civil rights case against the city's police department, a victory that tasted like fire. Then, flashing blue lights, step out of the vehicle. The voice cut through the rain, sharp, commanding. Jamal frowned, lowering the window. Officer, is there a problem? Two cops advanced, one young and nervous, the other older, heavier, wearing the look of a man who'd spent years mistaking authority for righteousness. The nameplate read SGT Miller. Hands where I can see them, Miller barked. I'm a lawyer, Jamal said, reaching slowly for his ID. You're making a bad move, Miller interrupted, yanking open the door and dragging him out into the downpour. Paper spilled, mixing with rain and oil on the asphalt. Phones started recording. A crowd gathered. Someone shouted his name. That's Jamal Carter, the civil rights guy, but the cuffs clicked anyway. You think your degree makes you untouchable, Miller sneered, shoving him against the car. Welcome to the real world, counselor. The flash of a phone camera caught Jamal's eyes, fury and humiliation colliding under streetlights. His pulse pounded like a drumbeat in a war he'd fought his whole life. Then a voice, low and trembling from the young officer beside Miller. Sir, dispatch says this man's name matches the attorney who just beat the department in court. Miller froze, hands still gripping Jamal's shoulder, as the city's newest storm began to rise, one recording at a time. And Jamal knew, in that split second, everything was about to burn. Rain blurred the edges of the city, a gray curtain over glass towers and neon reflections. Jamal Carter's Tesla glided through the empty downtown streets, the soft hum of its engines steady against the storm. He was tired, the kind of tired that lived in bones, not muscles. Winning the case today should have felt like triumph, but it only left him hollow. He had exposed another police cover-up, another man dead, another settlement with no admission of guilt. Justice, reduced to paperwork. He turned onto Jefferson Avenue, the courthouse fading behind him, when blue lights flashed in the mirror. Come on, he muttered, heart tightening. He wasn't speeding. His taillights worked. His registration was clean. The cruiser swerved closer, sirens slicing through the rain. Jamal sighed, pulling over near a lamppost flickering weak yellow light. He rolled down the window halfway. Evening, officer. License and registration, came the bark. Two figures approached, one older, bulky in his soaked uniform, the other young, hesitant. The older man's face appeared in the beam of a flashlight's square jaw, cold eyes. SGT Miller. Problem, officer? Jamal asked, forcing calm. Step out of the car, Miller ordered. Jamal blinked. May I ask why? You match a suspect description. Of course I do, Jamal murmured under his breath. What's the description? Black man, breathing. Excuse me, Miller snapped. Jamal exhaled, holding up his ID here. Attorney Jamal Carter. I'm returning from court. Miller snatched it. Attorney, huh? Fancy. He glanced at the ID, then at Jamal's face. You, that guy suing the department. Jamal didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. Rain hammered metal. The young cop shifted uneasily. Miller leaned closer. Get out of the vehicle, now. Jamal stepped out slowly, coat catching the rain. I'll comply, but you're making a mistake. Miller's smirk was thin and cruel. We'll see. He spun Jamal around, patting him down roughly. A passing car slowed. Someone filming through the window, sir. This is harassment, Jamal said through clenched teeth. Keep talking, Miller sneered. You'll find out what harassment feels like. The young officer hesitated. Sarge, maybe we should quiet. Torres. Jamal's phone buzzed in his pocket. Miller grabbed it, tossing it onto the hood. Rain pooled over the glass, distorting the reflection of Jamal's restrained hands. A small crowd gathered at the corner, phones out. Someone recognized him. Yo, that's the lawyer from the Jefferson case. The words cut through the downpour. Miller stiffened. Jamal met his eyes. For a fleeting second, Miller's mask slipped in security, flashing beneath arrogance. Then he shoved Jamal toward the car. You think you're untouchable. Think again, Sergeant. Torres blurted. Dispatch says the plate's clean, and the name matches the guy who just won that lawsuit. Miller froze. The crowd murmured louder. Jamal stared at him, soaked, breath steady. Go ahead, he said softly. Finish what you started. The world held its breath. Miller's grip faltered. Cameras kept rolling, and in that suspended heartbeat, that moment between rage and regret, Jamal knew the night wasn't ending here. It was just beginning. By morning, the rain had stopped, but the city was on fire. The video had crossed 10 million views before sunrise. Every platform, every news channel, every group chat buzzed with the same footage. Jamal Carter, cuffed in the rain, the same man who'd beaten the city's police department in court just 24 hours earlier. The caption beneath most reposts read, "He won justice yesterday. They arrested him today." Inside the downtown precinct, the air smelled of burnt coffee and panic. Phones rang nonstop. Reporters camped outside the entrance, and officers whispered as Miller walked in uniform, crisp, eyes hollow. "Sergeant Miller." Captain Reeves motioned him into the office, blinds half drawn. "You know what this is about." "I did my job," Miller said flatly. Reeves slammed a remote on the desk. The video played on the mounted TV, grainy, shaky, but devastating. Miller's voice came through loud and clear. "Welcome to the real world, counselor." Reeves shut it off. "The real world, huh? Congratulations. You just gave the department a PR nightmare." He was resisting. Reeves cut him off with a glare. He was standing in the rain. "And now the mayor's office wants your badge until further notice." Miller's jaw clenched. "You're suspending me." "I'm saving what's left of this department," Reeves replied. "Get out before the cameras catch you." Across town, Jamal sat on the edge of his couch, wrists still sore, the smell of wet metal still clinging to him. Maya paced in front of the TV, fury simmering in her every step. "They said you resisted arrest," she snapped. "They always say that." Jamal rubbed his temples. "It's a script. They've rehearsed it for decades." She stopped pacing. "So what now? You go back to work like nothing happened?" He looked up at her, eyes red, voice calm. "No, I go back to court." Maya's breath caught. "You want to sue them again?" "I want the truth on record," Jamal said. "The badge, the lies, all of it." He stood, walking to the window. Outside, a group of protesters held signs, "Justice for Jamal," and "Stop the system." The chants echoed up the street, muffled but powerful. Maya touched his arm gently. "They're here for you. They're here for what's been happening long before me," he said. "I just got caught on camera." At that same moment, Miller sat in his truck, watching the same video play on his phone. The replay of his own downfall. The comments were merciless. "Racist cop finally exposed. How many others has he done this to? Fire him. Charge him." He tossed the phone aside, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. His reflection stared back from the dark screen. A man cracking under his own denial. His wife, Sandra, opened the passenger door quietly. "They're saying you're suspended." "Temporary," he muttered. She hesitated. "Did you really drag him out like that, in front of people?" He looked at her, eyes sharp. "You believe them or me? I don't know who you are right now," she whispered, and closed the door. The rain began again, soft, mocking. By noon, CNN was running a segment, "Police Sergeant Suspended After Viral Arrest of Black Attorney." In the background footage, Jamal walked down the courthouse steps, his suit immaculate, his voice steady for the reporters. "I was unlawfully detained," he said, "but this is not just about me. This is about every black man who's been pulled over and never had a camera to prove it." A reporter asked, "What do you plan to do next?" Jamal met the lens. "Hold the system accountable again." The microphones caught every syllable. Calm, controlled, devastating. That night, Jamal's apartment became a command center. His law partner, Denise, flipped through the arrest report. "They claim you were belligerent," she said, "but the footage disproves that." Maya handed her a USB stick. "We've got 3 more angles. Social media clips, one from across the street, another from a driver's dashcam." Denise nodded grimly. "They can't bury this. The world's watching now." Jamal leaned back, eyes distant. "The world's watched before." "Maybe," she said, "but this time the lawyer is the victim. That changes things." He gave a humorless smile. "Shouldn't have to." The room fell quiet. The weight of history hung between them, centuries of injustice compressed into a single viral clip. Meanwhile, in a dim office, Captain Reeves took a call from the deputy mayor. "Yes, sir. We're managing it," Reeves said, voice tight. "Miller's suspended." "No, I don't think he understands the damage yet." A pause. "Yes, sir. I've seen the polls. The community's furious. They want blood." He hung up, rubbing his forehead. Outside the window, protesters filled the square, chanting under police floodlights. He muttered to himself, "This city's about to crack open." At home, Miller scrolled through threats. His address leaked, his voicemail full of hate. He tried to call Torres, his partner, but the line went straight to voicemail. Torres, it's me. Call back. We gotta get our story straight. He looked again at the paused frame of the video. Jamal's eyes staring straight at him. Unbroken, even in cuffs. Something inside Miller twisted, unfamiliar. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like the man with the badge. He felt small. Exposed. Later that night, Jamal stood on his balcony, city lights flickering below. Maya joined him, wrapping a coat over her shoulders. You think this will change anything? She asked quietly. Jamal watched the sirens weaving through the streets far below, red and blue bleeding into the wet asphalt. It has to, he said, because if it doesn't, then all we're doing is surviving the next time. Maya leaned her head against his shoulder. You're not alone in this fight, I know. He closed his eyes. The storm had moved on, but its echo remained in every headline, every screen, every trembling voice saying, enough. Somewhere across the city, Miller opened another beer, the light from his phone screen reflecting his own unraveling. 2 men, 1 night, and the world watching both. The war had just gone public. By dawn, the courthouse steps were drowning in noise, chants, signs, and camera flashes blending into a single, pulsing heartbeat of anger. Justice for Jamal. No more immunity. End police brutality. The crowd swelled with students, pastors, nurses, and lawyers. 1,000 voices, a single demand. Jamal stood behind a tinted window on the courthouse's second floor, watching. The air hummed with energy he couldn't yet trust, part solidarity, part spectacle. His reflection in the glass looked distant, older. Maya entered, holding a coffee that had long gone cold. They're asking for a statement, she said quietly. Media's been here since 5. Jamal nodded but didn't move. If I speak too soon, they'll call it grandstanding. If I stay silent, they'll call it guilt. Then, speak truth, she said simply. That's what you do best. Down the street, news crews jostled for position. A reporter from Channel 7 spoke breathlessly into her mic. Yesterday's arrest of civil rights attorney Jamal Carter has sparked what some are calling the largest spontaneous protest in the city's history. Her voice was drowned out by a sea of signs raised high. In the crowd, Denise maneuvered through, snapping photos for documentation. She spotted Reverend Owens, the same pastor who'd supported Jamal's first lawsuit, leading a prayer circle near the fountain. Lord, the Reverend intoned, we're tired of waiting for accountability. We're tired of being told to be patient while our people are humiliated in daylight. Applause rippled. Camera shutters clicked. Inside the precinct, Captain Reeves faced a wall of reporters at a hastily called press conference. His tone was clipped, mechanical. The department is aware of the viral video, he said. An internal investigation has been launched. We ask the public for patience while facts are reviewed. Is Sergeant Miller suspended? A journalist shouted. Yes, Reeves said, pending review. And the victim, Mr. Carter, was released without charges. What about the body cam footage? Reeves hesitated for half a breath. That material is under standard review. In the crowd, a reporter called out, people are saying you're covering for your own. Reeves' mask cracked for just a moment. We don't cover, he snapped. We investigate. The lie landed like a stone in still water, silent at first, then rippling outward. Meanwhile, Miller sat alone in his dim living room, the sound of the press conference echoing from the TV. His face was pale, jaw locked. He muttered, they're feeding me to the wolves. His wife, Sandra, leaned in the doorway, arms folded. You put yourself there. He shot her a look. You don't know what it's like out there. Every stop, every call, it's us or them. It's supposed to be justice, she said, not war. When he didn't answer, she turned away. I can't do this again, Tom. Again, he barked. Sandra froze, voice trembling. Last year, that kid inside. You came home the same way, angry, shaking, justifying everything. I told myself you were protecting people. But now, she looked at him like she no longer recognized him. You're protecting yourself. The door closed softly behind her, leaving Miller in silence, the only sound, the faint echo of protest chants bleeding through the TV speakers. Back at the courthouse, Jamal finally stepped outside. The crowd parted as he approached the microphones, Maya and Denise at his side. The noise dimmed to a hum. Cameras flashed. He took a breath. Yesterday, I was handcuffed in the rain for driving home from work. My only crime was winning a case against the same department that put me in cuffs. A murmur rippled through the crowd. This isn't about one officer, Jamal continued. It's about a system that lets that officer believe he can do it and walk away. He paused, looking out over the crowd, the faces, the tears, the fury. I don't want revenge. I want reform. I want accountability. Because justice, he said, voice hardening, isn't real until it protects all of us. Applause erupted, a roar of approval, defiance, and collective grief. For a moment, the city felt unified. Then a bottle shattered near the police barricade. Officers tensed, protesters shouted back, the air turned electric. Jamal raised his hand. Peaceful, he shouted, stepping down. Stay peaceful. But the tension hung, fragile, trembling. Later that evening, the mayor appeared on live television. Her expression was tight, rehearsed. The city condemns any acts of bias or misconduct, she said. We are committed to transparency as the investigation continues. Jamal watched from home, shaking his head. Translation, delay, and deflect. Denise sat beside him, typing furiously on her laptop. We'll subpoena the body cam footage. If they try to stall, we'll take it to the press again. Maya looked between them. You're starting another war. No, Jamal said quietly. They already started it. I'm just refusing to lose this time. That night, as the protests stretched into the early hours, Miller drove aimlessly through the city, past murals of raised fists, past crowds chanting his name with venom. He slowed near the courthouse, watching the flicker of candles at a vigil. The sight twisted something inside him. Fear, guilt, anger he couldn't name. He pressed his forehead to the steering wheel. I did my job, he whispered. I did my damn job. But even he didn't believe it anymore. From the rooftops, news drones captured the glow of protest fires reflected in the wet streets. The city didn't sleep. It was awake, fully, painfully awake. And for the first time in a long while, it was looking straight at the truth. The morning after Jamal's speech, the city woke to a strange calm, the kind that always comes before an institution begins to tighten its grip. On the surface, everything seemed orderly. Police cruisers parked neatly, officers exchanging stiff nods, city officials holding press briefings, but underneath, whispers traveled fast. The department had closed ranks. Inside the downtown precinct, Captain Reeves' office door was locked. Behind it, the air was thick with smoke and tension. 3 men sat across his desk, lawyers from the police union, clean suits, colder eyes. The oldest one, Whitmore, tapped the edge of a manila folder. We need to control this narrative. Reeves leaned back. It's already out of control. Then make it look like procedure, Whitmore said. Your officer was following protocol. The suspect became aggressive. Simple, he wasn't a suspect, Reeves snapped. Whitmore smirked. Then make him one. Silence hung. Reeves looked away. He'd seen this playbook before. A slow strangling of truth beneath layers of paperwork. But this time, the man they'd cuffed wasn't powerless. Jamal Carter had the law on his side and the city's eyes on him. Whitmore slid a folder across the desk. We're releasing an official report today. It'll say Carter refused to exit his vehicle and used provocative language. That's false. It's believable, Whitmore corrected. And that's all that matters. Across town, Jamal's law firm was under siege. Anonymous emails flooded in threats, racist slurs, even photos of his home. The receptionist quit after someone called pretending to be a cop. Describing the office layout in chilling detail, Denise slammed her laptop shut. They're trying to scare us. Jamal nodded, jaw tight. Means we're getting close. Close to what? Maya asked, standing in the doorway, her phone in hand. They just aired a segment calling you aggressive during the stop. They edited the video, cut out half of it. Jamal turned to the TV. On the screen, a news anchor said, sources within the department claimed the lawyer became confrontational. He could hear Miller's voice in the clip, could see the rain, but the part where Miller said, welcome to the real world, counselor was gone. Maya lowered the volume. They're rewriting it already. They always do, Jamal said softly. That's why we record. Meanwhile, Miller sat in a union office, hands clasped, face pale. You're saying they'll clear me? He asked. Whitmore smiled thinly. If you follow instructions, don't talk to the press, don't apologize, say you followed training, but the footage will say it's incomplete, out of context. Don't worry, we've done this before. Miller swallowed hard. And if it backfires? Whitmore leaned forward. Then you become a scapegoat. Your choice. Miller nodded slowly, heart pounding. He didn't like the feeling being handled, being told what to say. For the first time, he realized how replaceable he was to the system he'd spent his life defending. That afternoon, Jamal received an envelope slid under his office door. No name, just a flash drive inside. He hesitated, then plugged it into his laptop. A single video file blinked open. Bodycam_unit45.mov. The screen filled with shaky footage, Miller's perspective, rain blurring the lens. Then the moment, Jamal.com. Miller, snarling, the line, "Welcome to the real world, counselor." Followed by something else. Miller muttering to his partner afterward, "That'll teach him to mess with us." Jamal froze. The sound wasn't on the public version. Maya covered her mouth. "Someone leaked this," Denise whispered. "This is gold, but it's dangerous. If they trace it back, they won't," Jamal said, voice steely. "We protect the source. We use the evidence." He copied the file twice, then locked it in a hard drive safe. "They want to fight dirty. Fine. We'll fight legal." At the precinct, Captain Reeves called Miller into his office. "You lied on your report," Reeves said quietly. Miller blinked. "Sir, you said he resisted. The footage says otherwise." Miller stiffened. "That footage is internal, and it's already out," Reeves interrupted. "You're finished, Tom. The union can't save you from this." Miller's voice cracked. "You're throwing me under the bus." Reeves sighed. "You put yourself there." But when Miller left, Reeves sat down heavily, rubbing his temples. He'd just received a call from the city attorney's office. "Do not discipline him yet. We can't look like we're conceding to pressure." So he DI'd in single quotes. He buried the report instead. That night, Jamal appeared on a late-night talk show via video call. His face was composed, his tone even. "Mr. Carter," the host began, "the department says this was a misunderstanding. Do you buy that?" Jamal smiled faintly. "A misunderstanding doesn't come with handcuffs." The audience murmured approval. "What's next for you?" the host asked. "Discovery," Jamal replied. "We'll demand every second of footage, every radio call, every memo that mentions my name. I want the system to see itself." As the interview went viral, Miller sat at home watching, sweating. Jamal's calm burned more than any insult. It was exposure. Sandra had moved out the night before. The silence of the house gnawed at him. He grabbed another beer, opened his laptop. Dozens of unread messages from reporters. One from Whitmore. "Keep your mouth shut. We handle this from here." He slammed the lid closed. For the first time, the badge didn't feel like armor. It felt like a leash. Days later, Jamal arrived at court to file a civil rights suit against the department, not for money, but for public access to the truth. As he stepped up the courthouse stairs, flashbulbs exploded around him. A reporter called out, "Mr. Carter, are you doing this for revenge?" Jamal paused mid-step, looking into the cameras. "I'm doing this," he said, "so the next time someone gets pulled over, they don't have to pray a stranger's phone is recording to survive." He walked inside. Behind him, the chants began again, louder, sharper, unstoppable. The storm wasn't over. It was evolving, and the system, once confident in its power, had just met its first real reckoning. The courthouse hallways smelled faintly of bleach and burnt coffee, the scent of bureaucracy, of paper over truth. Jamal Carter moved through them with quiet purpose, his leather briefcase in one hand, a storm of focus behind his calm expression. He had filed the lawsuit, the city had responded, and now, the discovery phase began, the slow unearthing of secrets no one wanted seen. Denise caught up with him, tablet in hand. "They're fighting every subpoena, claiming the footage is sensitive material." "Of course they are," Jamal said. "When the truth threatens power, it suddenly becomes sensitive." Maya joined them, scrolling through her phone. Social media's still buzzing. Someone just leaked Miller's internal report. The one where he calls you non-compliant and verbally hostile. It's already trending under #hostile for existing. Jamal almost smiled. "Good. Let them see how language works as a weapon." Across town, Miller sat in his car outside the precinct, watching as officers walked past without meeting his eye. He wasn't suspended yet, but he might as well have been invisible. His partner, Torres, slipped into the passenger seat, face pale. "We need to talk." Miller didn't look at him. "You're not supposed to be here." "I don't care. The union's lying to us. They edited my body cam too." Miller turned sharply. "What?" Torres held up a small flash drive. "This is the full version, the one I downloaded before they wiped it from the system. You didn't just grab him. They cut out what you said afterward." Miller's jaw tightened. "What I said? You told me, they'll learn to stay in their lane." Silence filled the car. Rain tapped against the windshield, softer this time, almost pitying. Torres swallowed. "I can't do this anymore. I'm turning it in." "Don't," Miller hissed. "You'll lose your badge." Maybe it's time, Torres said quietly, opening the door. Maybe we both lost more than that already. That night, a new email appeared in Denise's inbox. No sender, no subject, just an attachment labeled for Carta. She hesitated, then opened it on a secure drive. Body cam footage, Torres's angle this time. The same night, same rain, but raw and uncut. The truth played out like a confession. Miller's aggression, Torres's hesitation, the exact words, no ambiguity. She called Jamal immediately. You need to see this. Minutes later, Jamal and Maya gathered around the screen. The sound of the rain filled the office again, like a ghost refusing to leave. When the clip ended, no one spoke. Maya finally whispered, "This could end him." Jamal stared at the frozen frame. Miller's face mid-sneer, full of power he no longer had. "No," Jamal said, "it could expose them, all of them." The next morning, Jamal delivered a sealed USB to the courthouse clerk. "Supplemental evidence," he said simply. The clerk frowned. "Anonymous source. Yes, that could complicate admissibility." Jamal's smile was cold. "So will the headlines if you reject it." The clerk hesitated, then nodded. "Understood." Meanwhile, Miller received a call he didn't expect. "Captain Reeves. Internal Affairs wants to question you again," Reeves said, "and they've got new footage." Miller froze. "How?" Reeves cut him off. "I don't know, and I don't care. You should have stayed quiet." Click. Miller threw his phone across the room, glass shattering. The sound echoed off the empty walls. He poured a drink, staring at his reflection in the TV screen. The face that stared back wasn't righteous anymore. It was afraid, he whispered. "They'll burn me to save themselves." And for the first time, he was right. At the same time, Jamal's team prepared their public statement. Denise looked over her notes. "If we release the footage to the media, it'll blow up instantly, but it could compromise the case." Maya crossed her arms. "If we don't, they'll bury it." Jamal sat silently, weighing the options. Every decision came with a cost. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered. "Carter." A low, tense voice came through. "You don't know me, but I work in records. Be careful. They're building a file on you. Surveillance, personal stuff. They want to paint you as unstable." Jamal's stomach tightened. Who is this? But the line went dead. That night, he couldn't sleep. The glow of the city filtered through his blinds, blue, red, indifferent. He sat by the window, thinking of his father, a postal worker who once said, "The system won't break for you, son. You have to make it bend." Maya joined him quietly. "You're scaring me," she whispered. He looked at her. "Because I'm angry. Because you're calm," she said. "And that's when you're the most dangerous." He smiled faintly. Dangerous isn't always wrong. At sunrise, Jamal's team submitted the uncut footage officially, and by noon, someone leaked it online. Within hours, the city was boiling again. The headline read, "New body cam footage contradicts police report. Attorney's arrest now under federal review." Crowds returned to the courthouse. Reporters swarmed. And in the quiet between sirens, one truth stood clear. The evidence had spoken. Now it was time for the city to decide whether it would listen. The courthouse steps pulsed with noise, cameras flashing, protesters chanting, and the air thick with something rawer than anger, exhaustion. The footage had gone viral overnight. News anchors dissected every frame. Hashtags multiplied like wildfire. Jamal stood at the top of the steps, hands clasped, his suit immaculate but his eyes shadowed. Denise and Maya flanked him as microphones were thrust toward his face. "Mr. Carter, do you believe this proves misconduct?" He paused before answering, choosing every word like it might be used against him because it would. "I believe," he said evenly, "that the truth is no longer under their control." The crowd erupted. Cheers, shouts, questions, but underneath it all, Jamal felt a pulse of dread. Truth wasn't enough. Truth rarely was. Inside the precinct, the mood was venomous. Officers avoided Miller like he carried a disease. His badge lay on the table in front of him, suspended, pending investigation. Captain Reeves closed the blinds and sat opposite him. "You're done, Miller. EIA's got you pinned. The mayor's office is distancing, and the union's washing their hands. You're radioactive." Miller clenched his fists. "You think they care about the truth?" Reeves laughed bitterly. "Truth, this city only cares about optics. And right now, you're the wrong color for their redemption arc." Miller slammed the table. "You all used me." Reeves didn't deny it. "And you let us." He stood and left without another word, leaving Miller alone with the echo of his career collapsing around him. That evening, Jamal sat in a dimly lit diner, the same one he used to visit after late nights at law school. The city outside buzzed with sirens and rain. Across from him sat his mentor, Judge Evelyn Harris, retired but still sharp as steel. She stirred her coffee slowly. "You've rattled the machine, Jamal. That's dangerous. I'm not backing down. I'm not asking you to, but know this, the system doesn't die, it adapts. They'll change the rules mid-game." He sighed. "Then we'll make new rules." Evelyn studied him for a moment, her eyes tired but proud. "You've got your father's stubbornness. Is that a compliment?" "It's survival." Meanwhile, Maya watched the protest live on TV. Her phone buzzed, a new voicemail. She pressed play, static. Then a man's voice. "Tell Carter to drop the case, or someone close to him gets hurt." Her breath caught. "No," she called Jamal immediately. "You need to come home, now." He arrived 20 minutes later. Rain clinging to his coat, Maya's hands trembled as she replayed the message. He listened in silence. When it ended, he looked at her, not shocked, just tired. "They're scared," he said. "They're threatening you." "No," he corrected softly. "They're threatening us, because we matter now." Maya's eyes filled. "You think this is victory? You can't fight shadows, Jamal." He stepped closer, brushing a tear from her cheek. "I already am." The next day, Denise burst into the office, breathless. "Jamal, the footage's chain of custody was compromised. The DA's filing to exclude it." Jamal stood, voice low but burning. "On what grounds?" "They're calling it illegally obtained digital evidence. They're spinning Torres's leak as vigilante interference." Maya slammed her palm on the desk. "They can't bury this again." Denise shook her head. "They can, and they're trying right now." Jamal grabbed his coat. "Then we fight them in the courtroom, not on screens, not in headlines, where it counts." The hearing room was packed. Press, attorneys, officers. The air crackled with unspoken tension. Judge Porter adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Carter, are you aware your evidence was received anonymously?" "Yes, Your Honor. And that such evidence cannot be authenticated under current statutes." Jamal took a breath. "Respectfully, Your Honor, truth doesn't stop being truth because it arrives uninvited." A murmur rippled through the room. Porter frowned. "Careful, Mr. Carter." "I am," Jamal said, voice unwavering, "but I won't apologize for bringing the truth to light. Not when it's being buried by the very system sworn to protect it." Silence. Even the reporters stopped typing. Porter stared at him for a long moment, then, reluctantly, motioned to exclude under review. Outside, cameras flashed again. Maya squeezed Jamal's arm. "You didn't just argue, you broke him." Jamal managed a small smile. "Breaking isn't the goal, changing is." Before he could say more, a car screeched to a halt at the curb. Torres stepped out, disheveled, panicked. "Carter, they're coming for me. Internal affairs. The union. Maybe worse. I can't stay quiet anymore." "Then don't," Jamal said. "Testify." Torres nodded, trembling. "You don't get it. They'll destroy me." Jamal met his eyes. "They already are." Later that night, as Jamal prepared his notes, his phone lit up an unknown number again. He almost ignored it, then answered. A voice he didn't recognize spoke calmly. "You think you're winning, Mr. Carter, but the system doesn't lose, it waits." The line went dead. Jamal sat back in silence. Outside, the city lights flickered red, white, blue, the same colors that had arrested him, the same ones now illuminating his fight. Maya's earlier words echoed. "You can't fight shadows, but maybe," he thought, "you could make them afraid of the light." And for the first time, he wasn't sure who was breaking the system, or himself. The storm that night felt like judgment. Rain hammered the city with a vengeance, washing down courthouse steps, blurring headlines on street-side screens that read, "Whistleblower Cup to testify in civil rights case. Anonymous leak sparks federal oversight inquiry." Jamal Carter watched it unfold from his office window, the glow of the monitors painting his face in electric blue. Below, protesters gathered again, umbrellas bobbing like defiant shields. He could hear them chanting even through the glass. No justice, no peace. Behind him, Maya scrolled through incoming threats on social media. "It's getting uglier," she said quietly. "They've posted your address again. Someone even sent—" "Don't tell me," Jamal interrupted. His voice was low, controlled, but the vein in his jaw pulsed. "Fear feeds them. We don't serve it." Denise entered moments later, soaked and shaking off her umbrella. "It's confirmed. Torres is going to testify tomorrow. He's under federal protection now, But it won't save him from what happens after. Jamal finished. Denise hesitated. Do you trust him? Jamal turned away from the window. I trust his conscience. That's all we've got left. Across town, Officer Ryan Torres sat alone in a cheap motel under an assumed name. His service pistol lay on the nightstand, unloaded. His phone buzzed endlessly, messages from the union, from friends telling him he'd ruined his life. He stared at the TV screen where a commentator sneered, "Disloyal cops like Torres are why our streets are unsafe." He muted it and whispered to no one. Unsafe for who? A knock at the door made him flinch. Room service, a voice called. He hadn't ordered anything. He grabbed the pistol, moved quietly toward the door. When he peeked through the peephole, nothing, just rained out another knock, harder, this time. Then silence. He exhaled shakily, heart pounding, and backed away. The fear was real now, not paranoia. The system didn't forgive betrayal, it erased it. The next morning, the courtroom overflowed again. The nation was watching live. Federal investigators, journalists, activists, even uniformed officers filled the gallery. Torres took the stand, visibly trembling but resolute. Jamal sat at the plaintiff's table, meeting his gaze, a small nod reassurance. The prosecutor began gently. Officer Torres, did you witness Officer Miller using excessive force during the arrest of Mr. Carter? Yes. And did you report it? I tried. My superior told me the footage was being handled internally. Did you later discover that the footage had been altered? Torres's eyes glistened. Yes, the version submitted to the department was missing crucial moments that showed what really happened. What happened, officer? Torres swallowed. Miller said, they'll learn to stay in their lane. Then he shoved Carter to the ground. I froze. I didn't stop him, and I've regretted it every day since. The courtroom murmured, flashes igniting like gunfire. The prosecutor stepped aside. Your witness. The defense attorney rose, smooth, polished, predatory. Officer Torres, are you under any disciplinary action for misconduct? Yes. So this testimony conveniently appears when your career is already ending. Torres clenched his fists. No, it appears because the truth can't stay buried forever. The attorney smiled coldly. We'll let the court decide that. Outside the courthouse, a wall of reporters waited. Jamal refused to speak, but his silence carried weight. The chants outside grew louder. Accountability, justice now. But behind that sound was a rising counterwave. Blue uniforms marching in solidarity with Miller, holding banners that read "Protect Our Own." Two protests, side by side, divided by barricades and centuries of history. In the precinct that afternoon, Captain Reeves faced a crisis. The mayor had called for internal reform hearings. Federal auditors were combing through every complaint file. An officer burst in panic in his eyes. Captain, the database, someone leaked it. All of it. The complaints, the falsified reports, everything. Reeves went pale. What do you mean everything? Everything, so. Names, timestamps, it's all online. Reeves's phone buzzed. A breaking news alert. Massive leak exposes decade of police misconduct. Whistleblower source unknown. He sank into his chair, staring at the screen. The blue wall wasn't cracking. It was collapsing. Back at the courthouse, Jamal received the same alert. Maya read over his shoulder, disbelief mixing with awe. This wasn't us, she whispered. No, Jamal said. It's bigger now. Denise looked up from her laptop. Half the city's servers are down. Someone wanted this to be public, not legal. Jamal exhaled, rubbing his temples. Then justice just went viral. By nightfall, chaos reigned. Officers abandoned precincts. City officials issued emergency statements. Talk shows argued over whether the leak was heroic or treasonous. And somewhere in the noise, Miller sat in his apartment, staring at his own face on the TV. The leaked files confirmed everything. His past complaints, previous cover-ups, the warnings ignored. He threw the remote, shattering the screen. They promised to protect me, he shouted, but the silence that answered him was absolute. A message pinged on his phone, from an unknown number. They protected the system, not you. Miller's hand shook. Who is this? No reply. Just the quiet hum of a city finally seeing itself in the mirror. Later, Jamal and Maya stood on their balcony, watching smoke rise from downtown protests, not from destruction, but from candles and flares. Maya leaned against him. Do you think this changes anything? He took a long breath. Change isn't one moment. It's the cost we keep paying until the next one. She nodded. And what's the cost this time? He didn't answer. Below, sirens wailed again, familiar, relentless. the sound of a city breaking, or maybe beginning. That night, as rain returned, Jamal opened his laptop and began drafting a new motion, Carter v. City of Atlanta, motion for federal oversight. His fingers hesitated on the keys, just for a moment, before typing the first line, for every name that never made it to trial. And outside, thunder rolled over the skyline like applause or warning. The blue wall had fallen, but the storm wasn't done. Morning came quietly, too quietly for a city that had spent the night on fire, not from flames, but from truth. The rain had rinsed the streets clean, but it couldn't wash away what had been seen. From every screen, every feed, every whispered conversation in coffee shops and buses, one phrase echoed: the system knew. Jamal Carter walked through the courthouse entrance surrounded by reporters and flashing cameras. He didn't flinch, didn't smile. He looked like a man walking into a storm he had already decided to survive. "Mr. Carter, how do you respond to the mayor's statement?" a reporter shouted. He stopped briefly. "The city wants forgiveness without accountability," he said. "I want neither. I want reform." The crowd exploded with questions, but Jamal moved on, his words already carving headlines. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. Every bench filled. Torres sat near the front, shoulders straight despite the shadows under his eyes. Maya and Denise sat behind Jamal, whispering last-minute updates. Denise leaned forward. "The judge is furious about the leaks, but public pressure's on our side now. If they suppress the evidence after this, it'll look like collusion." Maya frowned. "It is collusion." Jamal didn't answer. His gaze was fixed on the front, where the city's legal team sat, pale and tight-lipped. And at the edge of the room, Miller sat too, no longer in uniform, just a civilian waiting for his own trial to begin. Their eyes met for the first time since the arrest. Miller's expression was unreadable: anger, shame, or both. Jamal's was colder: acknowledgement without forgiveness. The bailiff called order. Judge Porter entered, robes flowing like a dark wave. "We're here to determine whether Carter v. City of Atlanta will proceed to federal oversight. Counsel, be advised, the eyes of this nation are on you." He wasn't exaggerating. The courtroom cameras were live again. News anchors whispered commentary like sports broadcasters. The city's lead attorney stood. "Your Honor, in light of recent unlawful leaks, we assert that the plaintiff's claims are now tainted by public interference. The case has become political theater, not legal argument." Jamal rose smoothly. "With respect, Your Honor, justice has always been theater. Only until now, it's been staged by those in power." A murmur swept through the room. Porter banged his gavel once. "Mr. Carter, watch your tone." "Yes, Your Honor, but understand tone is all we've had. When truth is ignored in whispers, it must shout." The defense presented procedural motions, technical jargon, but Jamal dismantled each one, calm and surgical. Every point he made echoed back through the live stream, becoming viral soundbites before he even sat down. When the judge finally called recess, Jamal stepped outside into the marble hallway. Torres followed him. "They're trying to break you," Torres said. "They can try," Jamal replied. Torres hesitated. "I heard from IAA they've reopened my case, said I violated confidentiality." Jamal looked at him. "You told the truth, Ryan. If they punish you for that, then you're living proof why this fight matters." Torres gave a small, tired laugh. "You make it sound noble." "It's not," Jamal said softly. "It's necessary." Across the city, Captain Reeves faced his own reckoning. Federal agents swarmed the precinct, seizing computers and files. A young officer whispered, "Sir, they're looking for evidence of falsified reports." Reeves didn't respond. His career was already over. He knew it, but what stung most wasn't exposure, it was the realization that Miller, Torres, Carter, even himself, they were all trapped inside the same broken machinery. He turned in his badge, quietly, and walked out the back door into the rain. Back in court, the judge reconvened. Porter looked exhausted. "Both sides have made compelling arguments. However, given the overwhelming public interest and the new evidence under federal review, this court rules that the matter will proceed to oversight." The words hung in the air for a heartbeat, then erupted into noise. Reporters shouted. Spectators clapped. Maya grabbed Jamal's hand. Denise whispered, "We did it." But Jamal didn't smile. His eyes were fixed on Miller, who stood slowly, shaking his head. "You ruined me," Miller muttered. "You don't even know what you started." Jamal turned to him. "I didn't start it, I survived it." Security moved between them as Miller's voice rose. "You think they care about you, about justice, They'll use you until they don't need you anymore. Maybe, Jamal said quietly, but at least now, they'll remember me. That night, the news declared victory. Carter wins historic ruling. Federal oversight approved. Leaked files ignite national police reform debate. But Jamal didn't watch. He sat alone in his office, the lights off, listening to the distant hum of sirens outside. His phone buzzed. Hundreds of messages, offers, interviews. He ignored them all. The fight had moved forward, but the cost lingered. Sleepless nights, Maya's fear, Torres's career, countless unseen sacrifices. The city had changed, but he couldn't shake the question. Had it healed? Maya entered quietly, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Everyone's calling this a victory. Jamal didn't look up. Victory is a word people use when they're tired of fighting. She sat beside him. Then, what do you call it? He thought for a moment. A crack in the wall, nothing more. She smiled sadly. Maybe that's how light gets in. He looked at her, and for the first time in days, his shoulders eased. Maybe, later, as the city's skyline blinked against the horizon, a news anchor's voice played faintly from a nearby TV. In related developments, multiple officers and officials face indictments following the data leak, including former officer Derek Miller. Sources confirm he's under investigation for falsifying records. Jamal didn't move. He just watched the reflection of the TV in the window, Miller's mugshot dissolving into the city lights. Justice wasn't clean. It never was. But it was real this time, and that was enough. He whispered to himself. Reckoning doesn't mean revenge. It means truth that finally stays. And for once, the silence that followed didn't feel empty. Dawn broke over Atlanta like a bruise fading into light, violet, gold, and tender. The storm had finally passed, but the city still hummed with aftershocks. Every corner buzzed with change. Murals of raised fists painted over cracked walls, new commissions announced for oversight, police reforms debated live on morning news. Yet beneath the progress was a fragile silence, the kind that followed funerals and rebirths. Jamal Carter stood at his office window, watching the city move. His reflection merged with the skyline, a man made of shadow and resolve. On his desk lay a single envelope stamped Federal Oversight Committee, approved. He traced a finger across the seal before opening it. Inside, confirmation. His case had forced the city into compliance with federal reform statutes, a small victory, but one that would ripple far beyond Atlanta. He exhaled, half relief, half disbelief. Maya entered, holding 2 coffees. You look like you're waiting for a verdict. He smiled faintly. Maybe I am. One I didn't think would ever come. She handed him the cup. So, what now? He looked out the window again. Now comes the hard part. Living with what it took to get here. Across town, Officer Ryan Torres walked out of a federal courthouse, flanked by reporters. His testimony had granted him partial immunity, but his badge was gone. His career over. A journalist called out, "Do you regret coming forward?" He stopped, thought for a moment, and said, "No. Regret is what built this mess. I just want to start over, somewhere I can look in the mirror again." It wasn't the soundbite they expected, but it was the truth, and truth had become rare currency. In a small apartment on the outskirts, Derek Miller sat alone. No uniform, no shield, no noise except the hum of a flickering lamp. He scrolled through news feeds showing his face under headlines like, "Disgraced Officer Indicted on Federal Charges." Carter Case sparks nationwide policy review. His lawyer's words echoed in his head. If you cooperate, maybe 5 years. He poured himself a drink with shaking hands. The glass clinked against the counter like a tiny gavel. He looked at his reflection in the window. Just another man stripped of armor, staring into the city he'd once controlled. 5 years, he muttered, for a lifetime of lies. The rain started again outside, soft and steady. For the first time, he didn't look away. That afternoon, Jamal visited his father's grave, a simple stone etched with the words, "James Carter." He believed in better. The cemetery was quiet except for the sound of wind moving through pine trees. He crouched down, brushing leaves from the stone. "We did it, Dad," he said softly. "Not everything, but enough." A moment of silence stretched between them, one alive, one gone, both part of the same unfinished fight. He closed his eyes. "You were right. The system doesn't bend on its own. You have to break it just enough to make it remember." Later that evening, Jamal stood in a community auditorium packed with students, activists, and young lawyers. The walls were covered in handmade posters. Justice is a verb. Maya introduced him. You all know who he is. What you don't know is how much he's sacrificed for this moment. Please welcome Attorney Jamal Carter. Applause erupted. Jamal stepped to the podium, adjusting the mic. I've been called a victim, a lawyer, an activist, he began, but before all of that, I was just a man who thought the law would protect me if I followed it. He paused, letting the silence breathe. It didn't, but that's not the end of the story. Because when the law fails, people can make it remember what it's supposed to be. The crowd murmured, not loud, but intent. Change doesn't happen because of headlines, he continued. It happens because ordinary people refuse to stay silent. The system will try to wait you out, make it wait longer. The room erupted in applause, some rising to their feet. Jamal stepped back, scanning their faces, young, hopeful, determined. This was what survival looked like when it turned into legacy. After the event, Maya found him outside, sitting on the hood of his car, tie loosened, eyes on the horizon. You're thinking again, she teased, always, about the case. He shook his head, about what comes next. The city will change its policies, hire new chiefs, write better statements, but justice, he looked up at the fading sky. Justice is a language we'll have to keep teaching. She leaned against him. You're good at that, he smiled. Only because I had to learn it first. Night fell, the city glowed beneath them, restless, imperfect, alive. News anchors recapped the week. Major police reform bills introduced in multiple states. Community-led oversight councils gain momentum. Carter credited as catalyst for national accountability wave. But in the background of every broadcast, one image lingered, a still frame from the viral footage that started it all. A man in handcuffs under cold rain, staring back at the camera, unbroken. It was Jamal, and now, it was history. Hours later, as he and Maya drove home, they passed a group of officers standing outside a precinct, unarmed, unguarded, talking with local activists. No cameras, no slogans, just conversation. Maya smiled faintly. Looks like something's changing after all. Jamal nodded, his voice quiet. Maybe it's starting to. He watched through the window as one officer extended his hand, tentative, uncertain, but real. That image, fragile, human, imperfect, was the one he chose to hold on to. When they reached home, Jamal turned off his phone, poured 2 glasses of wine, and sat by the window. The rain tapped softly against the glass, the same rhythm as that night long ago, the night he was thrown to the ground, humiliated, arrested. But now the sound meant something different, not warning, not fear. Renewal. He looked at Maya and said quietly, you know what I realized? What that justice isn't peace, it's motion. And as long as we keep moving, they can't stop us. She smiled. Then let's never stop. He raised his glass, to never stopping. They clinked gently, and outside, the rain began to fade, leaving behind a city that wasn't healed, but finally awake. 6 months later, the city felt different, not reborn, but rearranged. The streets that once echoed with sirens and protest chants now carried quieter sounds, buses, conversation, laughter that didn't flinch at every passing patrol car. Jamal Carter walked through downtown, coat collar turned up against the early winter chill. He passed murals painted after the trial, his own likeness among them. Not as a hero, but as a man in motion, head lifted against the storm. Someone had spray painted a single word beneath it. Remember? He paused for a long moment before continuing toward the courthouse steps, where a small crowd had gathered. Today marked the swearing-in of the city's new independent oversight board, the first of its kind in the state. Maya stood at the podium, reading the oath aloud. Her voice carried across the plaza. Firm, unshakable. When she finished, the crowd erupted in applause. Reporters snapped photos, microphones swarmed. Jamal stayed at the edge of it all, watching, unseen. This wasn't his stage anymore. It belonged to those who had risen after him, students, advocates, neighbors who'd once whispered it won't matter. He smiled faintly. Maybe it had. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Maya found him leaning against a pillar. You could have said something, she said. He shook his head. You said enough. They stood in silence as sunlight broke through the clouds, spilling gold across the courthouse steps, the same steps where he'd once been dragged in cuffs. Do you ever think about him? She asked softly. Every day, Jamal replied, but not with hate, just reminder. She nodded. That's how healing starts. When they walked away, Jamal glanced back one last time. A group of school children were climbing the courthouse stairs, their teacher explaining the importance of accountability. One boy pointed at the mural nearby. At the man facing the storm. "Who's that?" he asked. The teacher smiled. "Someone who didn't stop moving." And as the morning light stretched across the city, Jamal Carter kept walking, not as a symbol, not as a survivor, but as proof that justice, once awakened, does not sleep again.